What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to break down the 2024 WWE Elimination Chamber Perth pay-per-view. We just had a little discussion about how it's a takeover event, basically. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
G'day.
And Robert E. Felice.
Aussie.
Let's throw a little shrimp on the Barbie and get this podcast started. Elimination Chamber is in Australia this year. This is going to be a completely different time zone from what we're typically used to when we usually have the whole, 7 o'clock start time Eastern situation. But for those in Australia, you guys get a normal pay-per-view for once in a while. And, they're trying to make this seem like it's a pretty big deal. There are a few matches on the card that are a pretty big deal, and some of them that I honestly feel are weak. And I will go so far as to say that I don't think that this Elimination Chamber pay-per-view is anywhere near what they were hoping that they could do. And I'm disappointed in some aspects to it, but I also am looking forward to it quite a bit because I think there's a lot of potential to it. So we will break it down, not only our overall thoughts and our feelings about all this and our hype levels, but also who we think is going to win the matches, how this is going to play out going forward, all the typical preview type stuff that we normally do here. And as per usual, we also want to know what you have to say, so drop your thoughts in the comment section below on YouTube. While you're over there, make sure that you click on all the different buttons that you can see on there that helps us out, like the like button, the share button, pass us around, post on like Reddit and stuff. Go to the thanks button if you want to toss a little spare change our way. The join button is also there. Gives you access to the Patreon tiers that you could get over on Patreon if you're more into the Patreon stuff. But something like the Darkcast, which we most recently had done one of them, but there's probably going to be another one of them coming up soon because I think I'm going to record a little extra one on top of that with the Call the Spot and some of my fantasy booking ideas of what Robin Callum's Elimination Chamber mock draft things were. Not entirely sure if I'm going to be doing that this week or if I'm going to have to hold off on that, but stay tuned. You might see it. Also, click on that little notification bell. Get the email alert set up for when we go live for the Pay-Per-Viewpoint post show immediately following this pay-per-view, because now more than ever, you got to get that email alert to know when that happens, since it's going to be something like 11 in the morning or noon or something. I mean, technically, the pay-per-view starts at 4 in the morning Eastern time for the kickoff, but I don't know if the 5 a.m. start means we're going to end up at 9, 10, 11, something like that. Whatever it is, join us for that. And double check that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel too. That's a completely free option. Helps us out there. Redbubble and TeePublic, or where you can pick up some merchandise. Also keep in mind, we have our Discord server where you can chat it up about things from, you want to watch an episode of Monday Night Raw live with everybody. You can do that. We have the general tabs for just random AEW discussion or TNA or whatever it might be. Hop on over to that Discord server, join in on that discussion over there. Let's get into this Elimination Chamber pay-per-view stuff. There are, as I said, only a few matches on this, so it's not like we have, the 2 nights of WrestleMania type of breakdown here, but 4 matches and 1 interview segment, which I guess that might be the best way to start this off is, since we know that, SmackDown's already been recorded in advance. They're not going to add any more matches unless they announce it kind of on the spot. I am never really a fan of promo segments on pay-per-views. And this is something that I called months in advance. I was slightly wrong about it, though, because I thought that there was going to be Grayson Waller interviewing The Rock on the Grayson Waller effect. But we are getting the Grayson Waller effect with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. I feel like this has pretty much like a 90% chance to be a total waste of time. And I say that with the idea in mind that the crowd's probably going to love it because they're just, starved for having something here, and they're going to frame this in a way that it's going to seem like it matters. But here's how I see this playing out. Grayson Waller comes out, he says some kind of pro-Australia stuff, and then he says some anti-Australia stuff just to get some booze. He invites Cody and Seth. They talk about the exact same things that they've been talking about. Well, Roman's been holding that belt for too long, and The Rock, it's bullshit that he's here. And you can't do this kind of idea of like, you can't just step in and take control. I got your back, blah, blah, blah. Grayson Waller is going to try to be like, but you don't like each other. Sow the seeds of dissension there. Either Waller and Austin Theory get into a fight where they get their asses kicked, or somebody else comes out. The baby faces beat them up, and there you go. It's the end of the segment. I feel like this is a retread in the way that we've been getting a lot of retreads recently. Like that Rock segment on SmackDown wasn't really amazing in my book. And I kind of feel like we're stuck in limbo for another 3 weeks or so. So I'm not looking forward to this in particular, even though I like Waller, Rhodes, and Rollins. What do you guys have to say about this?
Not much in general. I think that it pretty much won't be that exciting or that interesting. The only ways that it could probably pique any interest is if it leads into a match between an impromptu match between Cody and Grayson Waller. Because I presume that, because I get the idea of like Austin Theory or someone else coming out and the babyface clearing them off, but I don't know how physical Seth can even get with people at this point in time. So we'll just have to wait and see from that front. But yeah, I don't think that it's really going to add too much of value to the storyline so far. I think it would just be there to say something pro-Australian, get the crowd excited, and yeah, and be a buffer between two more interesting matches.
This Rock, Cody, Roman, Seth angle is such a roller coaster for me, in that The Rock came out the first time, they lost me. I was excited after the kickoff event. I was excited even more when Cody and Seth had their piece on Raw last week. And then The Rock completely lost me again, because it showed they have no plan. The plan literally was just going to be Rock versus Roman, and now they're pivoting and doing this. Oh, but isn't it fun that you're getting heel Rock? Look, isn't he doing heel Rock? Look at how he's doing heel Rock. I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan that suddenly The Rock doesn't know how the Royal Rumble works, where he's like trying to say, You can't just want a rematch and get it. You're right, correct. You earned it.
I think that's just a heel saying shit. I don't think that's this.
I hope so.
No, it definitely is. It is, but it's just like there's a level of try that you can give to this, and that just wasn't it. Because it's like, no, he earned the right to tell his story the way he wants to. But so they did kind of lose me on that, and it wasn't just that. They also lost me with the Rock segment on SmackDown, because it really felt like they didn't say it. It was a whole lot of nothing was said. You know, it was just like, haha, I'm here and I'm doing the heel bit. So now I'm hoping this segment gets me back into it. I'm hoping that we get something to the effect of Cody agrees to have Seth in his corner, or something that will actually have ramifications on WrestleMania. It's clear they're doing something with these two, because Seth is in the commercial and they're keeping him around Cody. So Seth is probably going to be very busy come WrestleMania weekend. And in that sense, I'm excited for this. The rest of it, you guys have already said, is going to be paint by numbers. And I'm annoyed that Grayson Waller and Rhea Ripley are the only Australians on the show.
Yeah, I still don't get why Bronson Reed isn't booked on here, especially when you look at the people that are in the Elimination Chamber match and you're like, Bobby Lashley need to be in there.
And listen, before anybody says anything, no, I don't think that just because someone is from somewhere, like if you go to Kentucky, it doesn't mean that you have to suddenly use Ricochet because he's from Kentucky, nor does it mean he should like win everything.
He's from Kentucky.
But Australia doesn't get these shows a lot, so I see no reason why Bronson could be in a chamber. You couldn't throw Indy in a useless chamber spot. You know what I mean? Like, just to get them in front of their people. Like, I think that's only right. But that's just neither here nor there. Do you think we'll see The Rock at this show?
I mean, I originally thought that was going to be the case, but I don't anymore.
You advertise that The Rock's going to be there if that's the case. So, admittedly, like, I'm pretty sure the show's pretty much sold out at this point. You'd assume so. So it's not like it's like you're going to add any more eyes to it, but just so people are more likely to tune in at the live and watch it, I'd imagine you would advertise that The Rock is going to be there.
I think in like large part, one of the reasons why he's not there is because there's a time zone that they would be like, well,
that's stupid. That's stupid.
Well, we would know if The Rock is going to be there probably by now anyway, wouldn't we? Because they've travelled over to, a lot of them have travelled over to Australia.
Yeah, they have travelled over, but you think, I don't know, I do think we would have known if The Rock was going to be there. It just feels like that would have been a good chance to utilize him. But, you know, as Tony said, the show's sold out. Most are going for Ripley, honestly.
I mean, Rock could do something via satellite. Or have a pre-recorded thing.
He is a heel.
They play during that.
He could do the whole, I didn't want to be in Australia.
Yeah, I'm here in Hollywood right now, and but I've decided to grace Australia with my presence via the screen and something like that. Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of like via satellite stuff when he was doing the Hollywood Rock stuff in 2003. So I can imagine him doing that in this as well. Especially because I don't really see the point of him being there himself. Obviously, the point being that he's The Rock, and so that's like a big drawing point if you got him on the show. But just from the storyline perspective, it doesn't really make sense for him to be there without Roman.
Yeah, true.
And if Roman's not going to be there, because he won't, because we already know that he's not going to that show, then I don't really see the point of having Rock there, because it's not like Rock's going to do anything.
Like, Rock's not going to solo attack Rollins and Cody or something, for instance.
Well, he could have solo attack Rollins.
Yeah. Now, we could see Solo and Jimmy go on the attack. Like, that's a possibility. They could chip them over and be like, fuck you, you're not Roman and The Rock, dance monkey. Yeah,
but let's be honest for a second here. Shit, now that The Rock's a heel, Roman was just kind of standing there like, hey, look who we got. This guy. Like,
Roman is Solo Sikoa now.
Yeah, which is insane to me.
And disappointing.
I mean, do you also think that it's kind of interesting that Seth cares more about what's happening with Cody in this storyline than he does about who's going to be challenging him in the Elimination Chamber? Who wins the Elimination Chamber?
Yeah, I hate that. Because I know that there's a good portion of people that are just excited for the idea of a tag match, but I don't want to see a tag match on night one for multiple different reasons. One of them being it totally takes away from the whatever the championship match is. Number two, how do you do the tag match on night one and then on night two have all of the title matches? It kind of seems like you're screwing over the night one crowd. And I know that some people would try to make the argument, well, you get to see the tag match, isn't that great? The Rock's whatever. It still doesn't translate the same for me. But like all the people involved in the chamber is like they're fighting for almost a different championship. Like, you might as well be making this number one contender for Gunther's title.
Well, hold on. You don't sit here and tell me that if the night one crowd got Cody and Rollins against The Rock and Roman, that you're shorting them on the super hot World Heavyweight title program because they've done such a wonderful job of building that championship.
I'd be pissed if I got the tickets to Mania thinking I was going to get night one having a title match, and then they're like, yeah, you know what? You're getting a tag match that means nothing, and then
you're getting night... Well, hold on. Callum, go ahead.
Well, so you're going to get Bayley versus Io probably on night one, which is
the least important of the four.
Well, it's least important, but also the one that's the best built story out of all of them so far, outside of Roman and Rock. And then there's also the idea of, let's say that you've only bought tickets for night one of WrestleMania and not night two, because a lot of people will do that because those tickets are incredibly expensive. That means people on night one also get to see The Rock wrestle. Well, actually, the people on night one will be the only people that will get to see The Rock wrestle.
I get like why some people would be like, oh, I would care more about The Rock in a tag match than I would about Rollins versus McIntyre or somebody. We'll get into that a little bit later. But on my perspective, I look at that as like, oh, so you're backloading night 2 with the matches that really matter. Because night 1, if that's got the tag match, if they do a tag match, which they still might not even do that, that would be like, okay, so I'm just getting a match that probably should have taken place at Elimination Chamber. Because if they didn't want to do the whole, like, you don't have to travel thing, that's what should have happened here. Rock and Roman should be in a tag match against Rollins and Cody right at this pay-per-view.
I personally think that it makes more sense to be night 1 of WrestleMania to have that tag match if they do decide to go ahead with that. I think
I don't know too many people who are going to agree with you, Tony, in the sense that they're going to say, I don't want to see The Rock wrestle on night 1 of WrestleMania.
And it'd be like, it's more akin to, again, it's like a New Japan style-y thing, because they often do like prelim tag matches involving people that will then be fighting on a singles match the following night if they do like a 2-night show. So, and yeah, it's a good opportunity to add storyline beats to what the main event match on night 2 of the show would be. Because like, if you do that tag team match, then you could tell other stories. You could either have Rock and Roman have some miscommunication, which costs them the match against those two. And so we're thinking about, oh, they're going to be on the same page going into the main event. You could have Roman pin Cody again. And then people are just thinking, oh my God, is that what we're going to see at night 2 of WrestleMania? Going to see Roman beat Cody again? So there are multiple different ways you could do it. And it also can fuel into, as we'll talk about when we get to the Elimination Chamber men's match, the fact that Seth has to wrestle on 2 nights rather than just defend his title on 1, which means that if he's defending his title on night 2 of WrestleMania, then he's more tired and more vulnerable to whoever wins the chamber. So there's multiple different ways you could tell about it. So yeah, I think that if it was my company, it was my choice, then that's definitely what I would do right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see the benefit in saying, yeah, we have The Rock, and I'm not going to get into the whole, like, Cody Crybaby aspect of it, but they were just so loud that we're just going to not put him in the ring, even though he's clearly training to wrestle, and we're not going to put him in the ring because, yeah, we're going to actually just do what you want. They're not going to do that. And quite frankly, nor should they. That would be ridiculous. The Rock's there to wrestle. Even if it's a one-on-one match between him and Seth, which won't happen, but even if it's that, it should be The Rock does something and in the ring at WrestleMania.
I kind of feel like they're trying to do a lot of things, and at the same time, they are making none of them work. I just said, like, I don't think that a tag match on night 1 and then pushing all the both the title matches to night 2 is the best setup. And people can agree or disagree. And if they just want to see The Rock do a tag match that means nothing, they're going to want to see that. They're going to enjoy that, whatever. But I feel like those same people would be like, oh, but now I'm pissed that all he did was fight in a tag match and he didn't do anything on night 2. The people that want to see Rock versus Roman are going to be mad if they get anything other than Rock versus Roman, or at least a triple threat with Rock, Roman, and Cody. So if they get just a tag match on night 1, they're going to be like, oh, what a fucking waste. I hate this whole Cody Rhodes thing that got in the way. And then Rollins looks like he's dedicated more towards a tag match that doesn't matter compared to his title defense. And not only a tag match that doesn't matter, but a tag match that doesn't matter, and then also being ringside for the other guy's title match. That really makes Rollins seem like he just doesn't give a shit about his championship. And I hope that they have something in mind to turn this around, but now it seems like it's just a mess to me.
It was a mess. Look, as much as I'm happy they went with Cody versus Roman, it was a mess the minute they decided not to just do what they were clearly going to do.
I think the biggest mess is that they decided that they needed to have Rock versus Roman solo this thing and not just have The Rock involved as like the enforcer or something, because they could have gotten all the things that they needed to do with that, assuming they are going to have, of course, if Cody wins that championship, which I'm still incredibly nervous that they're just going to do a whole like, haha, Seth screwed him over or something stupid like that. I'll be fuming if that's the case. I'm saying that now because I don't want any setup on this Elimination Chamber pay-per-view to be like, you guys are trying to get along, but Waller is mentioning how they don't like each other really, and then come WrestleMania, Seth loses his title, then screws over Cody because you shouldn't be a champion if I'm not champion, or any kind of dumb shit like that. That is going to be my least favorite setup if they just go with like, wouldn't it be great if we reignite that story and then we can wait till next year to do Rock and Roman for the title and we could do all that? I'm going to be fucking furious. So I'm nervous about this whole Grayson Waller effect thing because I'm like, either it's going to be pointless since they're going to just talk about the same things that they've talked about the past 2 episodes, or it's going to set up something that I don't like. Like, I can't see this really being super useful. It's getting them on the card in a talking segment instead of even, like, I would have rather have seen even, I don't want, to be honest, I don't want Seth involved in this at all, because I think that his stuff's all muddled and it's kind of, there's no way for me, in my mind, that they can pull this off where Seth looks good, Damian Priest looks good, the challenger for Seth looks good, The Rock looks good, the World Heavyweight Championship looks good, Roman looks good, and Cody's looking good as the champion. There's no way I think that they can pull this all off. But
I think they could very easily pull it off.
Well, are you approaching it from
care
are you approaching it from the idea of it doesn't matter unless the only thing that matters is if The Rock and Roman start fighting?
As long as Cody wins the belt, it doesn't matter.
You don't think
no one's going to care if Seth fights whoever and Priest cashes in afterwards? Everyone looks great. They just had a featured spot at Mania. The only way they screw this up is if Cody doesn't walk out with Roman's title. That's the only thing that will make people go, okay, now I'm mad at you.
Your optimism is much higher than mine. I could say that.
It's not optimism, it's realism.
Yeah. I don't even think this is optimistic.
They've built the show that's the only thing that will define whether WrestleMania is good or bad, is if Cody wins the title or not.
That's why people are okay with the fact that Seth is more concerned about this, because they stuck him in a position where he would have looked like a bitch if he would have turned around and just been like, okay, I don't care now. I'm just going to go ahead and fight Bobby Lashley, I guess.
It's also because of the fact that last year proved that point, because people left WrestleMania feeling negatively towards it just because Cody didn't win when 90% of WrestleMania last year was great.
That is true.
You don't think that if Cody wins, but if everything else is a mess, you don't think that on night 2 of Mania we're talking about it's a shame that Seth looks so bad and that the Rock thing didn't work out and that.
Well, you're not saying that everything else will be a mess. You're just saying that the Seth thing will be a mess. And to be fair, if Cody ends up winning the title and then most of the rest of the show is good, I'm totally fine with Seth's thing not being that great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm saying I think that everything's going to be a mess.
What do you mean everything's going to be a mess? You think Bayley versus EO and
no? I don't mean every single matches. I mean everything involving these people. I think Seth. Again, I think that there's a chance Seth looks bad. The World Heavyweight title looks bad. Damian Priest cashes in and loses, or potentially looks bad. Somebody like a McIntyre ends up looking nowhere near as good as they should. Somebody like a Sami Zayn doesn't end up having a good story.
Sami Zayn's fighting Gunther. I've decided that. That's what's happening.
I think that the Rock thing is going to piss people off that wanted something different, and the people that didn't want the Rock there. I think that some people are going to be upset about Roman, and I think that there's a chance that Cody doesn't even win the belt too.
Yeah, but people are going to be upset at everything. I'm sure. I bet there's a handful of people out there that wish that Drew Gulak was facing Roman for the title WrestleMania instead. Are they going to be pissed off because they're not getting that match? Of course. Well, it's just, I think that you have to, if you've got The Rock, you use him in some capacity. And then I think that yeah, I think it gives you kind of a best of both worlds things, because you're getting your Roman and Cody match that the people that have been following the story and have been following WWE for the last few years want, and you're also getting your Hollywood megastar appearing in the main event of one of your shows. So yeah, I really like. I'd like to say I understand where you're coming from, but I really just actually can't understand where you're coming from about this going wrong. So you've tried to explain to me a few times, and I'm still thinking, yeah, I don't see this backfiring, really.
I do have to say that this whole conversation is making me feel even more like this is why this segment on Elimination Chamber needs to solidify something, and they can't just go, oh, let's just have a talking segment, because I think you solidify that at least Seth is going to be in the corner, or maybe even you do issue a challenge for a tag team match or something.
They need to do something for sure. And for that matter, they need to do something that ends up working out. Because I do think that if the whole big segment is we just talk about the same things, we fight Theory and Waller, and then we pose and nothing changes,
that would be a huge waste of time.
That's a huge waste of time.
That we can all agree on. That would be a colossal waste of time.
I think if the big thing that happens in this is that Cody just agrees to have Seth in his corner, I think that's still underwhelming, because it's already established. It's already basically like, it's like the difference between like when they set up something that it's so obvious who the challenger is going to be, and then you wait like 4 weeks for like a number one contenders thing, and it's like, I can't think of a scenario off the top of my head exactly, but like, let's put it this way. This is, we're going to get into something a little bit later on, but like, they spent an entire year having Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch stare at each other. You mean to tell me that Becky Lynch isn't winning this Elimination Chamber?
Okay, well,
it's not going to be like, we'll break it down in more detail, but like, some people are convinced that it's Liv, and some people are convinced whatever, but like, the vast majority of people are going to go, yeah, we fucking knew that. And it's not going to have the same impact as if it would be like, whoa, holy shit, I didn't see that coming. So if it ends up being like the big reveal of the Grayson Waller effect segment is Cody goes, yeah, then it'll be like, well, no shit. What was he going to say? No. So I think that they need to do something here that not only makes it worthwhile beyond just filling time and having Grayson Waller and the two others appear on screen, but I also think that this needs to be something that leads to something good at Mania. I don't want Mania to be a convoluted mess where the only positive to take away from it out of all these people, I mean, not like every single match, because we don't know what's happening with like Judgment Day and stuff, but like, I don't want it to be like, well, we had a handful of decent matches and then a convoluted mess of all this stuff with whatever, and now the 2 world title matches are in chaos, but hey, that was a fun rock bottom, or you know what I mean? Like, so I'm nervous that they don't have a solid plan yet, and that their solid plans, even if they do have them, might end up being something that I'm not a big fan of, and that they can't balance this all because they're gonna. I guess another way for me to say it is I have no faith that they are the type of waiter that can serve, how like they hold all those trays and it's got everything balanced. They're going to drop some plates. And then certain people are going to be sitting there going, well, fuck, now I have to wait for them to bring out another dish of mine. I don't think that they have the ability to balance it all.
You're right. I don't think they have the ability to balance it all. So they're leaving the complimentary bread on the side right now because they're just concerned about getting the main dish to the table.
Poor Seth. If that's the case.
Oh, I mean, poor Seth.
He's involved.
But to be fair, this is actually better for Seth than if it was just the world title match, because nobody would give a fuck about it just if he was just involved in the world title match.
Yeah, nobody. After Punk got hurt, because that's another thing that we have to talk about. Punk got hurt.
Punk was scheduled for this. I'm convinced that Punk was going to be winning that Elimination Chamber match.
And he was advertised for this show, so that was their whole thing where we don't need Roman on this show, we got Punk. You don't have that now. And for Seth, honestly, he comes out a winner because he's involved in this. Because otherwise it would have just been, you see how unimportant his title looks? And now he doesn't have that. Now it's like, oh, not only is he world champion, but he's right there in the mix with The Rock.
To be fair, I also think that they haven't fixed that, because I don't think that Seth looks great in this scenario to offset the, look at how shitty his world title looks. I think the world title still looks like shit because Seth isn't involved in that. If they were to have, for instance, this isn't going to happen, and we'll talk about it with the chamber match, but like, if The Rock were to win the Elimination Chamber match and fight Seth on night one, my opinion changes entirely about a lot of this, because then it's like, okay, you're continuing that feud and it's also for that belt, and it's, you know, that's kind of, you're stacking those plates up in a way that you can hold them. But I feel like right now it's very much like Seth shouldn't even be champion, because when they settle on who's going to fight for him, he's going to have to juggle being the supporting player of the Cody story, and then also just like, oh, and by the way, I also have a title match that I don't really give a shit about. So I would think a better scenario for this, not only would Seth not be involved in the whole Rock thing at all, but I would have thought that maybe, if anything, it would have been like you do some sort of tag match thing or something, and it's CM Punk that Grayson Waller is interviewing, to get him on there.
But he really can't get physical and punch Waller in the mouth, even though he likes to punch people in the mouth. I get where you're coming from, but I really think it's actually going to be a lot more fine than you're thinking it will be.
I am fully expecting this to be basically the exact same thing that we've seen on Raw. And with, you know, Theory and Waller get their asses kicked by Rhodes and Rollins. I'm not expecting much from this. Maybe I'm wrong, though. I don't know. Yeah. I'm hoping that by the time WrestleMania Night 2 ends, that I'm looking back on this and going, wow, I enjoyed all that stuff. Because I obviously don't want to be fuming and feeling like I wasted another year worth of build for shit that I don't really like. But that's one element of this card. It's not the only thing that's happening in here. We do have some other matches, like some actual matches to talk about, I should say. One of them being one of the big highlight things for this whole thing. Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World Championship against Nia Jax.
I'll start with the main event.
Do you think it's going to be the main event?
Yes.
I don't know if I would put a whole lot of faith in that, but it would make sense. I just kind of see it as like, I could see them not doing that the way that WWE is, where sometimes it seems like something makes perfect sense and then they just go, yeah, but why wouldn't we have the Elimination Chamber for the men in the main event or something? I could see that being the case instead, but one way or another, Rhea Ripley is going to get a huge reaction here. She's going to retain her title. There's no way Nia Jax wins this. It wouldn't have been the case even if this wasn't in Australia, but especially if it's in Australia. It's kind of more of a question of, is she able to pick her up for a Riptide?
No, it's not the question. That's the spot, and that's what we're doing, and that's going to be a beautiful thing. And the place is going to go nuts, and Australia is going to chant "mommy" the entire 12 minutes and 35 seconds that they're in the ring. I don't know why that was the number I gave, but going with it. And
is that going to be your prediction for the?
I think it's going to be, yeah.
Well, I'm not doing the time prediction for the Nia Jax and Rhea.
I know
Ripley
you.
match.
You never will. It's for one of the chambers. I know. No, but this is fine. She's gonna hit the Riptide, and it's gonna be great. And credit to WWE for making Nia Jax a star again. There's a lot of people who don't like her, and I get it, but she was way better on this run than anything she did in the entirety of her last run.
She's definitely been better this time around. Not that she's, suddenly absolutely amazing, but, I've been enjoying her more recently. I do think it's funny when I see some people, because I always do search for, like, alternative opinions out there just to kind of get some, either completely delusional ideas or some differing things that make me think. But there is a small contingent of people that are, for some reason, convinced that Nia Jax is winning here so that she can get a lot of heat and then fight Becky at Mania. And I'm like, oh man, that's 3 levels worth of things that's like, no, it's not happening.
I mean, look, let's put it to you like this, and I guess if you'd like to, we can transition from this to the other women's match. But they were very clear with one match at the WrestleMania kickoff, and it wasn't anything involving the men. It was, hey, look, everybody, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. That's your match, and that's fine because they haven't had the match yet, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, this match has been a foregone conclusion since it was booked, and I think going into what happened on Raw this past week and saying that I did think was dumb is they're so desperate to make people feel like Nia Jax is a legitimate threat that they basically had her bury all 6 members of the Women's Elimination Chamber match for a circumstance that you could have Nia Jax pin Roman Reigns, and I still wouldn't believe that she's beating Rhea Ripley for the title on this show. It's as foregone a conclusion as you can get, which is totally fine. You can do that. This is Rhea Ripley's big homecoming match. She's going to be the biggest star on the entire show. She's going to get a big babyface reaction and beat Nia Jax. That's totally fine to do that. Fundamentally, she could go against anybody. Probably, well, even like Becky Lynch or Bianca Belair or someone like that, and go into this, and I would very, very, very highly doubt that she would lose the title.
Right.
In any of those circumstances. So Nia Jax is just there to be the monster heel that will get lifted up for the Riptide, which I hope she can do. I'm sure she can. But
she probably can. It's just if she doesn't, that kind of screws one of the big spots of the whole thing. Yeah,
exactly. So you don't want that to get messed up. But as long as that doesn't, then yeah, that's basically what the purpose of this match is there for. So yeah, so no shame in having a predictable match going into this. But it's just the issue of why then, like, don't try and convince people otherwise. Because fundamentally, the only reason you'd be convincing people that Nia Jax is going to win this would be the kind of the definition of that you aren't a very good booker. Because you're going to have Nia Jax being your champion going into the final month leading into WrestleMania. It's like, yeah, you've basically told everyone since even before WrestleMania, before the Royal Rumble, that Rhea Ripley's facing Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. So, and as I say, we'll get into, well, might as well cover the Elimination Chamber, as Rob says in this one as well. I mean, Becky Lynch is obviously winning that match, and it's less 100% confirmed than the Rhea Ripley Nia Jax one is, but it is pretty much confirmed, because other than, if that's not the case, the only reason they would do that and have Becky Lynch lose that is just so she kind of has her world kind of shatter around her, because she was so convinced and she was so sure about the fact that she was facing Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. And then if she just suffers some sort of shock loss, gets rolled up or something, gets pinned, and she's like, has an absolute look of disbelief on her face. And then she thinks, well, what am I going to do for WrestleMania now? And then that's when Jade Cargill comes in. Then maybe that's the other alternative. But realistically, Becky Lynch is winning the Chamber. Rhea Ripley's winning this, retaining her title, and then we're on the collision course that we all expected for WrestleMania.
And the breakdown of that match, for the people that don't necessarily know off the top of their heads, it's the 6 competitors are Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Naomi, Raquel Rodriguez, and Tiffany Stratton, which is not the breakdown that we had seen on the leaked graphic, which is pretty interesting, because they
I never bought that.
They had everybody right except for they had Jade in Raquel's spot. And honestly, I do believe it, because they seemed to have set that up a little bit with the SmackDown prior, where they had Jade and Braun Breaker looking at the contracts, and then they, for some reason, only announced that Braun had signed. I was like, oh, okay, so that means that on the next episode of Raw, they're going to do that Last Chance Battle Royal. And the Last Chance Battle Royal wasn't Last Chance in the sense of it was only people who had the qualifying matches before. It was everybody. So everybody who could potentially compete in there, except Nikki Cross wasn't in there, right?
Yeah, and
she was too busy wandering. I was assuming that, okay, well, that means that Jade Cargill is going to pop up there and she's going to win that. And then something's going to happen during this match where it's like Bianca and Jade or something. I don't know. We'll get back to that in a minute. But I thought if they aren't going to have Jade, they're probably going to have Raquel come back. And lo and behold, Jade's not in it. Raquel comes back. She wins this. I think it makes more sense to be honest, than to have Jade in this, because I think Jade wouldn't have won anyway. And then you would have had to do some kind of finagling where it's like, say the final three are Becky, Bianca, and Jade. And Jade takes out Bianca, and then Becky rolls up Jade or something. I don't think that works as well as you could just have a setup later on, because I'm expecting Tiffany's going to get one elimination here. She's probably going to take out Naomi, maybe Liv. I'm not entirely sure. One of those two she'll take out. I think Raquel might get one elimination. Maybe she's the one that takes out Liv, and that's how they set up a little thing between those two. But I think this is going to come down to Becky and Bianca. Becky wins. Bianca has had that little thing at the kickoff press conference. Still think it's stupid as well that they called that kickoff. They like that term. They like throwing that off and other things, but whatever. They kind of established that they want to do something with Bianca at Mania, and that makes sense that she would need to do something, but what would that be? And it's not necessarily a situation where I think right now is where they're going to go Bianca versus Rhea, which a lot of people are anticipating will happen. I think it's next year though. And Bianca after this just has some kind of, hey, I got to figure out something else to do at Mania. We've talked before about the idea that maybe she teams up with Jade Cargill. Maybe it's the two of them against the Kabuki Warriors, or in like a multi-woman facet. Maybe she just fights Jade. I mean, Charlotte seems to be like powering through this injury super fast. I don't think she'll be ready in time, but there are some avenues. She's definitely trying. There are some avenues that can spawn out of this that aren't just the Becky thing, but the long and short of it is, well, the most important thing is Becky's going to win this. It's just a matter of what else do you get? Do you start a feud between Liv and Raquel? Do you start a feud with Bianca and somebody? Does Stratton end up having a match with Belair at Mania or something? I don't know. I'm actually more curious about that than I am anything else when it comes to this match. Is like what else happens afterward? Because the Becky thing is just such a foregone conclusion.
The thing I've been talking about for years now. If women are equal and you know, everything that they do, they're on the same level. Why don't we ever just get standard grudge matches for women ever? It's just, here's your title matches. Thank you. Goodbye. Like, why can't we just get Bianca versus Jade or Bianca versus Liv? And by the way, I do think that Liv is going to be heavily featured here. I can see her being final 3, but I think Tiffany gets rid of her to put some heat on her. But Liv is an avenue that they can go down for Rhea. Should Rhea make it out of WrestleMania as champion, I don't think she will, but that is an avenue they can go.
I'm quite interested in the dynamics of this match in terms of the fact there's 5 baby faces and 1 heel. And I think that, I mean, there's a way you can make that work with, like, Raquel is the biggest person in the match, so she can kind of play a temporary heel role in this.
Yeah, she's pseudo heel.
I think it's probably about time Liv Morgan turned heel at some stage, like, because she's pretty much been the same for a while now. So I mean, I could see her forming a alliance with maybe not a Tiffany Stratton, but somebody else is like forming like either a heel tag team or just being a heel character instead, and maybe she gets eliminated by Naomi and she gets pissed about it and attacks her afterwards, and then you set up a match between Liv Morgan and Naomi for maybe not like the main WrestleMania card, but a kickoff match at WrestleMania instead. So I mean, as I say, I would like to see some other matches get formed off the back of this chamber in the same way that I like to see matches get formed off the back of Royal Rumbles when they're booked well. But yeah, it would just be interesting to see how this goes and how the eliminations come together. Because Bianca's got to get eliminated at some point if we assume that Becky's going to win. But does it come down to Becky and Bianca, and Becky gets a clean win over Bianca and they shake hands afterwards, or does Bianca get jumped by multiple people? Does Tiffany Stratton get a big pin on her to like kind of help elevate her to the next level? So as I say, there's multiple different routes that you can take with it. So it's kind of it's not even just because the winner appears, at least on the surface, to be such a foregone conclusion. It's more about who gets eliminated and by who and when is the more interesting part of this match.
Yeah, how does the match get set up and what happens after the match outside of the Becky and Rhea thing? And we'll talk, of course, future ideas of Becky and Rhea once that once that starts happening, once we get into the final build to WrestleMania and all. But I would say that there's a very good chance that at least one person at some point in this pay-per-view gets like an interference based thing during the Elimination Chamber. Like somebody comes out and attacks them and that kind of screws them over or whatever. But I don't think it's happening in this match. If it does, I think it's Jade doing something to Bianca where like, we're down to like Becky, Bianca, and say Tiffany. And then Jade comes out, screws over Bianca, and Tiffany pins her. And then we're down to Becky and Tiffany or something. But I don't think that that's happening here. I think that that's happening in the men's match. So we're all going Becky. We're all going to Rhea.
That happening, but yeah, definitely Becky, definitely Rhea. That's a lock for Mania.
Mm-hmm. Now the undisputed WWE tag team titles are on the line because we still haven't split up those belts or gotten new belts. I don't know why, but the Judgment Days, Damian Priest and Finn Balor are going to be going up against what they're calling themselves now as New Catch Republic. That's not fucking catchy at all. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate.
Catch right in the name.
Which is now the second tag team that is...
Someone's clearly liking catch wrestling.
Not only catch, but also the word that precedes that having no and new. New Catch Republic and No Quarter Catch Club, or whatever it is.
I think everyone's just trying to capture what the Blackpool Combat Club is.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh, it totally is. It's
maybe it's just Regal ideas. Hey, why don't you just call yourself this?
He's like, how about you have Catch Club? Just keep everybody's Catch Club. They're like,
in a way, he's just pissed that that name got given to AEW instead, and so he can't bring it back to WWE.
Yeah. Well, the New Catch Republic, I think, doesn't work super duper well, but I am a fan of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. Like, they've got great matches. We've seen them do some great stuff over the years, but I have absolutely zero faith that they are winning these belts. And
I really wish they would. Like, I really, really, really wish they would. But no, they're not, because it's our Truth in the Miz against Damian and Finn at WrestleMania, right?
I mean, I still think that there's a chance that we get more teams involved because they could throw in DIY and the Creed brothers and all sorts of different other kind of things. We don't know if they're going to do one of those showcase matches this year or if they're going to do the Andre in a different way. A lot of things recently have been feeling different. Like, the way that they're presenting things is definitely different. They're doing, different video packages and stuff. And they, without Kevin Dunn, without Vince, we don't know exactly how they're going to build this Mania. And, what sucks about this Mania is like, if all of the stuff that's happening now happened 5 months ago, I think we would be in a much better position for this Mania. And also, if we didn't have these injuries and we didn't have like the Brock situation, look, we're not getting the Mania that they thought that we were going to be getting in December. It's not happening.
We're not getting the Mania that they thought we were getting on the Friday
January.
Before the Royal Rumble.
Right, yeah. Like we're not getting that set up and stuff, but we are going to be getting some things that are different and some things that they maybe have been wanting to do for a while or Triple H has been wanting to do for a while, and then they just like Vince kept shooting them down or something. So I'm curious to see if like that showcase thing that we had last year is a Triple H idea that he's like, that's the way to throw more people on the card, or if we're going to get some completely different setup. But I do think that the Judgment Day isn't just going to fight Awesome Truth. Just straight up those two against those two. I think something else is going to happen, but in no way do I think that this involves Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate holding those tag belts.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because they would be great tag team champions, and hopefully they will be one day.
They could be a really fun set of SmackDown tag team champions if you split them up. But if you're just cross-branded, I don't think they're winning them. Even like winning them at Mania or something. And it's kind of funny that they decided to go with them on this card too, instead of any of the other kinds of options. So I don't know if they're trying to tap into like, I know Australia's not like, yeah, like Australia's not fucking the United Kingdom, but it's
got it on the flag.
They got the
Sorry,
whole.
who was the first NXT UK Women's Champion?
It's like they have that weird connection between all that. Like they threw in
Weird
New
collection. We used to
Zealand
own them.
and that's so awful to say. Like we used to own them.
Well, no, he's being honest.
No, I know what you mean.
I mean, I was involved in it. I didn't make the decision, but like,
Yeah.
it's true. It used to be the place where we sent war criminals.
Yeah, which makes like some sense in the idea that it's an island and people are like, just make that Alcatraz. But like, history's fucking weird. But I don't think history is going to be good to Dunne and Bate here. I think that they are just having this match as a B-level pay-per-view type of thing. They've already done some of the other bigger matches, and they're going to save some of them for WrestleMania. So this is just like a means to get to Judgment Day on the card, and they win, and that's it. I don't think, for that matter, too, for anybody that's wondering if like, well, Damian Priest is over here, maybe he cashes in on Rollins. That's not happening.
Serious thing, real quick.
First off, you have to say the words.
I think Money in the Bank needs such a. They should stop doing it for like a year or two, and then bring it back when they can do it proper. When's the last time Money in the Bank felt like a threat or impactful or anything at all?
It felt like a threat to people's careers for a long time.
Well, yes.
But I mean, yeah, realistically, the Big E cash-in is kind of like the last, like, notably good one. But even then, that didn't really lead
And
to
even
much.
look, I went on record when it happened, and I'll go on record now and say that one sucked. They randomly were just like, "Hey, Big E, tweet that you're cashing in tonight because the ratings are down, and then we're just gonna have you cash in the way a heel would, but it's okay because people love you." And it's like, that used to be such a cool device. And over the last 5 years or so, it's just been shit.
Well, they're in a really bad situation right now, in particular, where it's like there is no logical reasoning why Priest isn't cashing in on an injured Seth Rollins. And they tried to justify it by saying he's not cleared to compete, so he's not allowed.
They won't let me.
Yeah, which is like, look, it's you could have done better, you could have done worse, but at the same time, the whole thing's shit. Like, maybe you should have just had him cash in a couple months ago and maybe done something like that. But I'm still thinking they could change my mind entirely when it comes to this whole Rock, Cody, Roman, Seth, whatever thing. I'm still thinking, and this will tie into the Elimination Chamber match we're going to get into in a minute, that Damian Priest walks out of WrestleMania as the champion.
Yeah, me too.
And
I think he loses the tag titles
on night
but
one,
wins that, and then immediately goes, "Yeah, I'm the only one holding gold here, so I'm the leader of Judgment Day." And then they just break up immediately.
Yeah, I think night one of WrestleMania, Judgment Day's losing those tag belts. Who wins that from them?
Miz and R-Truth.
Miz and R-Truth seems like the most obvious, but
Because it is.
I mean, it's not like 100% a guarantee, but I think that's like, look, if you're gonna bet the house, you bet the house on that. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they definitely fell ass backwards into it.
Yeah, certainly not the plan a couple months ago.
People are really digging R-Truth, and it's, as much as it's weird to say, I guess the people who were kids when Awesome Truth was a thing really just sort of like that.
Awesome Truth were a thing for like 3 months.
But
in 2011.
For some reason, it really has gravitated towards some people. Like, some people are just like, yeah, Awesome Truth. Not for me. I was very much 18 and very much like, this is dumb, but here we are.
You know what's really, really strange? Why is it that we're going back like 11 something years for different things? Like, the Awesome Truth thing is here. I saw a thing earlier. I didn't corroborate like the dates and stuff, but the whole idea of like The Rock instituting the new championship, and apparently Cody had said something like, in 10 years, I want this belt to be associated with Cody Rhodes and not The Rock or something. That's like, fucking, we're just going back to that. Like, okay.
Well, I would take the argument that maybe, again, if you're popular, considering for you guys, maybe considering who's on the podcast with me, but I think that realistically, you could just team R-Truth with anybody, and the crowd would still want him to win the tag team titles.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I think.
Yeah, probably.
It's definitely
they're just using the fact that it's they're just using that because they don't want to put what was Kofi and R-Truth's tag team name?
It wasn't Air Boom.
R-Boom.
R-Boom.
R-Boom, yeah.
Because Air Boom was Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston.
Yeah.
And then they busted him for pot. So just R-Boom.
R-Boom was so fucking dumb.
Yeah. So they just don't want to put that team back together, or there's R-Truth hasn't won the tag titles if anybody else has it.
Did he win it with didn't he win it with somebody else?
They haven't brought like Mark Henry back to be his tag team partner or something. I'm sure he'd team with Mark Henry at some point. John Morrison as well, because he's obviously
he definitely teamed with John Morrison in a WrestleMania against Show and Miz.
Yeah, so I guess it was only Kofi that he won that.
And he did he's played.
The Golden Truth, but the Dustin's busy.
Yeah,
so that's not happening.
I can't do it with Dolph Ziggler either. So yeah, the Miz is kind of the only available tag team.
What's Pac-Man Jones doing these days?
Life, maybe.
Probably.
I mean, he was tag team with Carmella in the Mixed Match Challenge, if that counts. He won season 2 of that with her.
They're both 24/7 7-Eleven champions, so maybe they could do something.
Real quick, off the top of your head, guess how many times...
the old adage of Xavier Woods debuts places, but being R-Truth's friend. So maybe...
Truth and consequences. Guess how many times off the top of your head that R-Truth won the 24/7 title?
58.
I think it's close to that. I'm going to say 52.
You're both like surrounding the answer. It's 54.
Yeah.
Let's see that.
Crazy amount of arguably one of the most prolific championship wins in WWE history. But yeah,
just an update on Pac-Man Jones, by the way. On September 11th, 2023, Jones was arrested after police responded to a report of an unruly passenger at Cincinnati, North Kentucky International Airport. Jones was booked on misdemeanor counts of an alcohol intoxication, disorderly conduct, and terroristic threatening.
But he was released.
He was released, though. He was released. He's fine right now. So book him. Book it, Vince. If that would be Vince's thing to do.
Tagged him up with ex-con Dom. There you go.
Yeah.
For that matter, what the fuck is Dom going to do at Mania?
It's crazy that he doesn't have anything going on.
Well, that was the thing, isn't it? Because that's something that we could talk about, considering the fact there are very few matches. Is that he was supposed to be fighting Brock Lesnar on the show?
Yes,
that's true. That was supposed to be a thing, which is really weird.
Because the whole thing about the Bron Breakker introduction was the fact that he just did every single spot that Lesnar was supposed to do, and Lesnar was supposed to be eliminated from the Royal Rumble by Dominic Mysterio.
But Brock would have gone to Australia and just whooped Dom. So then what would he have done?
What at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
I mean, Lesnar would have been fighting Gunther.
That's what he would have done. Yeah,
pretty obvious now because they don't seem to have anything in mind for Gunther other than maybe they're gonna go back to the Chad Gable thing, which
I think Dom would just have accompanied Rhea Ripley to a match, probably.
I think this is what he
or been involved in some sort of battle royal or something.
He would have done the WrestleMania Showcase tag. It'll be Dom and JD.
Yeah, either that or he would have been in the Andre Battle Royal before on the SmackDown before WrestleMania.
Which is unfortunate because Dom's a great character, and I wish that they had a match for him.
At this point, since they haven't said any of those other elements, like, we've seen the Andre at WrestleMania. We've seen it at the kickoff. We've seen it on, I think it's 3 years in a row that they've done it on the SmackDown prior to Mania, which seems like that's probably their positioning going forward, which really fucking blows. We can assume that we're getting the Andre again. And then we can assume that it's probably on SmackDown. Dom would be one of my top 5 picks to win. I could see them giving him that and doing it that way. Another major one, of course, Solo Sikoa. Another, we'll get into a lot of those things.
Going to Dom and then him being like, "Yeah, I'm big man Dom now," or something.
Yeah,
like that would be good because he deserves consistent story because he's a fun character, and they don't have enough of that.
I also don't think that he'll be involved in like Rhea's match or anything, because I don't think they want to mix up the fact that she's going to get like this uber babyface reaction and mix up with like Dom being one of the most fun guys to boo.
You mean
I agree
Chamber?
with that.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I just don't think he'll be in her corners for this one in particular.
Nah,
he might be in the tag team match. But
I think it's almost a guarantee that he's in the tag match.
Oh no, I mean like he'll be. What you mean by being? I mean back in the Elimination Chamber, he'll be in Finn and Damian's corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say there's a good chance that would be the case. But yeah, like just to get my prediction out there, because I know we've like meandered over on loads of other things in the meantime. But yeah, I don't think the tag titles are changing hands, because the story they are building is that R-Truth needs. It's not the case that R-Truth and the Miz need to win the tag titles. They need to beat the Judgment Day to win the tag titles, because that's the whole story. Is the R-Truth, and the only reason why they would change the tag team titles here is if they don't think that the Miz and R-Truth versus Judgment Day needs to have the titles involved. And they've just put the titles on Dunne and Bate in order to do some sort of more NXT style fatal 4-way tag team match instead.
Man, if they had that foresight here, but not with The Rock and Roman not needing the title, I would probably be very pissed off.
But yeah, I'm not of the opinion that you guys share that Damian's winning the title at WrestleMania. But we'll get to that when we get to the men's match.
So that's definitely, I mean, we're all going Judgment Day. We're all going Rhea Ripley. We're all going Becky. The only way that we could potentially disagree on this predictions is, I mean, outside of like, other little opinions, but the only way that we could potentially disagree on the match outcomes is this final one, the Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship title shot at WrestleMania. Now, that is the match. Like, that's the match that they're advertising it for. They're not going to switch it up and be like, surprise, we decided to change our mind and the winner gets a shot at Gunther or anything along those lines. The current lineup for this, which I don't expect will change, but we're going to get into that too. In alphabetical order, we've got Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, LA Knight, Logan Paul, and Randy Orton. Now, I want to break these down one by one here, because there are lots of little side things to talk about, and some of them influence, well, that's why this person will win the match, or this person won't win the match, or any of those other kind of elements. The Logan Paul and Kevin Owens bit for this, I think that they're ruled out of this entirely because Logan Paul's got the United States title. He's not fighting Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. Kevin Owens still seems to be feuding with Logan Paul. So it's like, all right, well, I guess he's going to be fighting for the United States title at WrestleMania. I still anticipate that there's probably going to be more than just Owens versus Logan Paul, and that they're going to do some kind of like a multi-man ladder match or something. But I don't know. Is there any argument that you guys have for either of them potentially winning? And then if yes or if no, what do you think is going to happen with them come Mania?
The only argument I could ever make for Logan Paul winning would be more publicity for the company. Hey, Logan Paul won this big match, and then he's going to go and do the world title match at WrestleMania. But he already has a title, so they don't need that. I think it's Kevin versus Logan, but I can see them utilizing this match to shift to LA Knight versus Logan Paul.
Yeah, I mean, neither of them are going to win this match. But, I mean, I think that there's a good chance there'll be some sort of multi-man match for the US title, because you do have a lot of names involved. I think that they're still, based on what everything's happened on SmackDown, at least recently, they seem to be, in my mind, leaning towards LA Knight versus AJ Styles.
Put them in the match, fuck it.
Well, yeah, but let's say if you have a multi-man match with those two also involved in it, so if you do some sort of like, I don't know, fatal 4-way or 6-man ladder match, then you can have those guys involved in it and bring their feud into the United States title match, and then, I don't know, the other two people would probably be, as much as I would hate it, Karrion Kross and Bobby Lashley. Maybe. Unless they do some sort of, they're just doing some sort of, like, I'd prefer them to do just some, well, I'd prefer them not to be on the show at all, but they'll probably do some sort of 6-person or 8-person, 6-man or 8-person tag match on the one of the WrestleMania kickoff shows.
So
and then maybe you could throw in Santos or something.
Oh, so it's the Santos thing, all right? So let's bounce around this way. As simple as it is to just kind of toss them immediately out too, none of us think Bobby Lashley has any chance of winning this either.
Nope.
Let's just be perfectly honest. Like, that ain't fucking happening. So I'm still like kind of curious why he's even in the match compared to
because
throwing
he
in
brings
Bronson
credibility.
Reed. He is a former champion, and that is like a name aspect that goes along with that. But I still think I would have personally had Karrion Kross screw over Bobby Lashley, and Bronson Reed would have.
Yeah, but I also would have had AJ Styles screw over LA Knight, and I would have done their match here, because you cannot tell me that I'm supposed to get excited for these two to have a match at WrestleMania. Sorry,
I am fully expecting at this point, and it, could very easily be wrong. I do think that what we're going to get is a multi-man ladder match for the U.S. title. It's going to be Logan Paul, LA Knight, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, and then there might be more people involved, but it might just be those 4. The maybe element of this to me it ties in Grayson Waller a little bit, because Grayson Waller and Austin Theory have been still somewhat feuding with Kevin Owens, and they've had a little bit of a tie-in with Logan Paul. But I can't see, for instance, Logan Paul, Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, AJ Styles, LA Knight, Kevin Owens. Like, we're getting way too many people here. It could be. They could have an 8-man ladder match or something. They've done the Money in the Bank thing there before. But I'm leaning a little bit more towards maybe the idea that Waller and Theory are just doing another Grayson Waller effect segment at WrestleMania, which kind of sucks. But I could see LA Knight and AJ Styles having matches on SmackDown leading up to them being in the multi-man ladder match at WrestleMania. And that includes even like Kevin Owens and LA Knight versus Logan Paul and AJ Styles on an episode of SmackDown or something. I could see that being the case. Bobby Lashley, I think, is fully locked into the Pride versus the Final Testament, and that they're just killing time. It's either the Pride against the Final Testament, or it's just Lashley versus Kross, and it's like, some last man standing match or something.
That would be way more thought than I can ever imagine them giving to this, but we'll see. That
would leave, if we throw LA Knight into there, like, none of us are expecting LA Knight to win this either. It would leave just Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre.
Okay, let's just start here. And I don't care. We've gone in circles with other things, so we're going to talk more anyway. We all think Drew McIntyre is winning this Elimination Chamber, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The only way I don't see that happening is if somehow Solo takes out Randy and they plug in Rock. But as we've already established earlier, if Rock is wrestling, especially in his first ever chamber, you're telling people. And there's also not a big enough babyface for Rock to take out, and then it's, oh, fuck this guy. That's just not there. So,
well, see, that's where things get really interesting to me, because if they want to do something here that completely changes up the dynamic, there is certainly a chance that they could. And I don't anticipate that that's going to be the case, but holy shit, could they potentially do some kind of, pull the rug out, and it's like The Rock, or I'm less and less and less thinking CM Punk. I used to think that was going to be the case, but now it's just like, that's not going to be Punk. Drew McIntyre, if anybody straight up just wins this match, it's Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
But Randy Orton could be taken out by Solo. And shit, for that matter, Solo Sikoa could end up just like suddenly winning this match or something. But The Rock could win this match. Sami Zayn can come out and do something that screws over Drew McIntyre. There could be something going on with like a three-way thing with Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, because they're kind of building this idea up that like Sammy's got to do something, but then again, he's also saying that he wants to put Drew McIntyre in the rearview mirror. So it's a tough situation.
I mean, I just based on what you were kind of saying there, what kind of roles we put forward as well. Can I ask, is it so bad that Drew McIntyre just wins this match?
No, it's
just a matter of how do they then.
I think Tony's argument in particular is that it's not exciting enough, right?
Well, no, it's more so that if it's just Drew McIntyre wins this and they just do Drew against Seth, it is a feud that we've already seen, and it's also not only does it not have any kind of like pizzazz to it, but the Seth and Rock and all that stuff completely overshadows it, and they would need to do something to change that up. Because if they just end up having it be like Drew is basically only the person in this feud for the next couple weeks, where it's like Seth is kind of focused more on the Cody thing, and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I also have that match. Then Drew kind of looks stupid, and it sort of seems like it's a one-man feud, you know?
Well, I mean, I kind of think that just, again, it's not like I'm watching week to week, because I'm not anymore, but it's a case of, from what I read and what I do see, like little clips, stuff like that, it does appear that Drew McIntyre is about as over, I know he's a heel now, but he's about as over as a heel as he ever was as like top baby face of the company.
And he is very
he feels like he's
story.
Yeah, and he feels like he's doing extra work, and correct me if I'm wrong, he did just beat Cody Rhodes last.
He did,
on the last episode of Raw.
He's the second person to pin Cody.
I know
his credibility is not in question at all. Like, he's the top heel.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I know it's not like as flashy as, you know, The Rock being in it, but then I also had the question of like, do you want The Rock to win the world title and then just never defend it?
Right, that's another thing, because a lot of people are, you know, tossing out that idea without thinking of then what do you do with The Rock afterward, because you can't have The Rock just hold that title and do nothing. And then a lot of people, of course, are going into this whole like, oh, but then it'll be The Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania 41 and it's title for title. It's like, fuck you, we don't need that fucking situation going on.
No, my thing was when I saw the kickoff, like, okay, you can potentially do this title match and this title match, and then on night 2 you merge them. And I'm not worried about merging the world title. They wouldn't do it because they just made it, but I wouldn't be worried about it because, again, from day one, they never built it up to be anything of significance. And that's the only thing I will say pisses me off about this story. Suddenly people are like, but I care about the significance of this title. No, the fuck you don't. You were calling it the Cody Consolation Prize from the minute it was created. You don't care about this belt. Like,
that's the thing is they care about the belt. That's why they criticize it.
You criticized it before it was created, because you criticized the fact that it was being created, because all anybody wants is just the non-Roman belt. Now that they're telling you the only thing that matters is Roman's belt, it's like people are upset. And I think that basically, I think we're getting Sami Zayn versus Gunther. That's what we're getting at WrestleMania. He clearly said on Monday, I want to be a champion. He switched it up from world champion and said, I want to be a champion. I think we're getting Sami Zayn versus Gunther. I think Drew's probably just going to beat Seth Rollins. That's the way I would go. I can also see Seth managing to beat Drew and then Priest cashes in.
That's where, see, but even though, like, if I ignore everything going on with The Rock, let's just assume, like, you know, it was just not the case. But if The Rock hadn't done anything at all when it comes to January 1st, saying the whole tease and then doing this whole thing with the press conference, if it's just Cody wins the Royal Rumble, he challenges Roman, and that's straight up Cody versus Roman again, the scenario that I imagine happening is what we talked about before with, okay, it's Punk versus Rollins. Oh no, Punk isn't able to do that. So we do Drew versus Rollins. And then it's either Drew wins the title, gets cashed in on, or more likely Drew comes up short, Rollins gets cashed in on. With the whole Rock thing, it could completely change that. And I could see a scenario now where it's as simple and bland as it's Drew versus Seth. they spend the next couple of weeks barely giving that any attention. It's mostly just Drew saying, I want to win this belt and I'm the number one contender. Meanwhile, Seth is like, hey, I'm busy elsewhere. And they just do the match on night 2 after doing whatever the tag match is. And then Drew just wins the belt. And then it's just kind of like, all right, well, that was an extra little thing. Moving on. The next segment is, and I don't want that to be the case because I want this championship to be booked better. I want Seth and Drew and all the parties involved to be booked better. I want the Damian Priest thing to be working out well. So I want them to figure out a way to balance these all. And I don't have a whole lot of faith that that's going to work. But it does seem like it's way more likely that Drew just wins this and that he just fights Seth in what they consider to be like, shut up, it's these two people and it's happening, so we don't need to put any investment into it. I don't like when they do that, but they do it. So just because it's not my preference and not how I would book doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. We've seen plenty matches that are championship matches before that have been like, don't you want to see these two people fight? Wait until Mania and you'll see them fight. Look at Shinsuke and AJ. It was like, yeah, all right, he's challenging him. We'll see you in a couple weeks. That feud was garbage.
We always talk about Bianca and Sasha.
100%. They were like
terrible feud.
Absolutely terrible feud. That people
great match, great moment, historic.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible feud.
People do the whole retroactive rose-colored glasses things with things like that, where they just go, isn't this going to be great? And then once it happens, they go, well, that was great because whatever. And they don't realize that there's 7 to 9 weeks worth of sludge to get through. And
but that's why I don't understand your feelings here, because we're just talking ad nauseum. That's going to be the retrospective here. People are going to go, wow, wasn't the Bloodline story so amazing? And it paid off. And wow, Rock was a heel. And that was such a great time. When we're sitting here, we know the truth. But like, I think the rose-colored glasses are going to come on strong for this whole thing, unless Cody doesn't win that belt.
Also, like, I'd make an argument, and again, it's coming from someone who's not watching like actively week to week, but just again, because I do like try and keep up to a degree with like just even reports or like clips and stuff. But this Drew story's been going since. Clash. Well, not Clash of the Castle, but like the particular things involving Rollins probably since just like post SummerSlam.
Yeah,
like Drew has been evolving as a character for this whole time into being now into fully fledged heel after being a bit like wavering between the two for a while and now firmly in that camp. And a lot of that is evolved like a pursuit of the world title, and also the pursuit. The really long-term story that he's been telling is the fact that he's never won a world title in front of people.
Well, he did the second time, right?
No, because that was still during COVID.
Oh, was that still?
That was Hell in a Cell, yeah. Not Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell was when Randy won it.
Hell in a Cell was when Randy won it. He won it on like a November Raw, but that was still Thunderdome.
Oh, yeah, shit.
So I think that, as I say, the Seth stuff, I'm completely agree. Seth's been like his reign has been poor and it hasn't had any excitement, stuff like that. Drew's character and Drew's growth over the past year has been interesting. It seems pretty obvious that he's re-signed.
I would hope so, at least.
It feels like it, and even if he hasn't, then they're showing that they're at least going to push a guy to either convince him to re-sign or they just realise that he's the hot hand right now and they're going to go with it. And even if he hasn't re-signed, he could still put somebody over on the way out as champion. But either way, I think that the real logical step is like Drew wins the world title at Mania and they try and make a big moment out of it, and that's when you kind of kick the title into high gears with Drew as the champion. Especially when Cody's the world champion, you're kind of away from all of this bloodline stuff muddying the waters. And there's kind of a clearer divide between Raw and SmackDown. You have an active world champion on SmackDown and an active world champion on Raw, and you can try and show a bit more without Roman's shadow causing like a big shadow on the world title. You can finally start to make it feel a bit more prominent again. But I think that like because of Drew's development over the past few months, 6 months or so, that this is a well-told long-term story. And you are 100% right. This isn't what the plan was for WrestleMania, but you can kind of at least tell that kind of like retrospective narrative that this was a long-term story leading into Drew winning the title at WrestleMania, even when it was obvious that it was going to be Punk versus Rollins, and Drew was probably just going to have a match with Sami Zayn or something at WrestleMania because Sami's never beaten Drew McIntyre. But then you can lead into a story of Drew McIntyre holding the title for a while, and then Sami Zayn's the guy that beats him for the title.
That's one of those interesting things that if they don't pull the trigger on the Drew and Damian Priest and all that stuff, they've got Drew McIntyre confused with Sami Zayn going for it. Sami Zayn, for that matter, still could be one of the major candidates to win Money in the Bank, since that's going to be in where in Canada is that going to be? Toronto. I was like, I know it's somewhere in Canada, but I didn't know for sure if it was like Toronto, if it was like,
you know what I would like to see is Sami Zayn beat Damian Priest and take his briefcase because they're just not doing anything with it, and I think Sami can force his way into this, and that'd be more fun for me.
But there's also a story that they want to go back to, which is when CM Punk is healthy, CM Punk will end up having a feud with Drew McIntyre.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, that as well, yeah.
So whether that is involving, like, I don't know what to do with Priest in the meantime with that, because I really don't want Priest to just like look like a jackass, but they're seemingly kind of setting him up to almost have to fail, right?
Well, yeah, well, I know you guys are probably bigger fans of Damian Priest than I am, so I'm kind of like less
concerned,
less fussed about. Yeah,
have I given you that impression?
I mean, you're probably a bigger fan than I am, but that's because it's not that I'm not a fan of Damian Priest.
Well, you're just not watching, so I guess that's by default.
Yeah, but it's also just more about the fact of I think it's obviously a huge shame for Damian Priest. I will completely agree with that one way or the other. It's just more along the lines of, unfortunately, you've just missed your opportunity with this one, and in the grand scheme of things, like, it's not a huge loss, but it's obviously bad for him. But it's essentially, the likelihood is you're just going to have him cash in on Cody Rhodes and lose.
Probably. Yeah. That's probably what's going to end up happening. But I hope that they have something in mind that they can, even like I'll put it out there. I put another application in for a writer's gig on WWE. Not to spoil anything that I'm, hey, if I get the job, whatever. But like, if you were to say to me, you walking out of WrestleMania and the champions are Drew and Cody, let's just say that, and they'd be like, what do you want to do with Damian? My pitch would probably be, now's the time that you can tell the story of, you're pretty close to Money in the Bank at that point. I mean, has Money in the Bank been scheduled for July?
Yeah, July
I think
6th.
July 6th. So you have a few more months. If it's one of the options, but one of the options could be potentially to tell the story of what happens when somebody doesn't cash in for the entire year. And then you can start getting into like the panic mode thing. One story you could tell is that Damian Priest goes to cash in and somebody like a Finn Balor screws him over. And then that's the story of the breakup of the Judgment Day, where it's like, okay, he technically lost his cash in, but we set it up in a way where he doesn't look like a complete fucking loser. The way that, like, Austin Theory had his whole thing, or the way that Braun Strowman got beaten down and then it was like, oh, well, that's just, whatever. Or Damian Priest, or not Damian Priest, Damian Sandow, or Baron Corbin. Like, there are ways to have somebody lose where they don't look like shit, as long as you have it make sense and then you tell a good story after that. But I do hope that he ends up winning that championship at some point, and I don't want him to cash in on Cody at WrestleMania and do that. I don't want him to screw over any of the other people in the process. Like, I want them to balance out all the plates, to go back to that analogy. But
Callum made a great point. They will, once you get that belt off of Roman, because there will just be a natural order of things where, okay, now these titles can be equals, because we're not saying that one champion is so much more important that he doesn't need to show up.
That's the ideal situation, yeah.
And I mean, if we're talking about like what we potentially would do with Priest in his cash-in to try and make it seem like he's not a big loser at the end of it, my approach would be that you would like have, following WrestleMania, when let's say that they've lost the tag team titles, that you have Priest and like Priest be, I'll just say, kicked out of the Judgment Day, that is like usurped almost, or there's a lot more friction between the Judgment Day, and maybe he does get kicked out, it turns babyface, and then I would have him kind of, he's like towards the end of his time with the briefcase, or his time allocation, he just goes, listen, I've tried to cash in the sneaky way, but I've decided that I need to win this title like my way, and he just challenges Drew McIntyre as a babyface to for the match, just straight up, like no sneak in, cash in, and anything like that, and he just has a banger match, or as good a match as he can have with Drew McIntyre, and comes up short, but you kind of at least say, okay, he had that main event match now, and then we can kind of go back to the Judgment Day feud for a little while and build him back up to eventually win the title, maybe in the future if he gets over again. But yeah, as I say, as long as it's part of a wider story for him or for the title, then I think that it's not a big loss. I don't think that you necessarily need to have the person who wins Money in the Bank cash in successfully for it to be considered a success. So, but
I get that. No, I get that. It's just, personally, I think that they just missed their boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I think let's be honest, I think that they put that on him without a plan in mind to begin with. Yeah. Even if all like the injuries and all the changes that have happened over the past couple of months or stuff, I think that they originally put that on Priest, just going, oh, what about Priest? We'll figure it out.
I think they originally showed that they did have a plan. They had all that stuff with like the SummerSlam program where it was like, will he cash in and usurp Balor's moment? I think the time to do it would have been after Seth fought Shinsuke and in the build-up to War Games. But they just didn't do that.
Yeah, it's a shame. But right now, I think unless they're pulling some kind of a switcheroo where Orton gets taken out and The Rock gets inserted in here, or Solo gets inserted in here, like maybe... Look, what's Solo doing at me? What's Randy Orton doing at WrestleMania?
Oh, you just answered it. It's Randy versus Solo.
If they're not fighting each other, then I don't know. But like, it kind of seems like it has to be that, which that in and of itself also kind of makes it seem like, goddamn, why didn't you just do Cody and Randy against Solo and Jimmy or something like, at the Elimination Chamber? Like I feel like there are so many different ways that they could have gone about doing a lot of things that I think I personally would have liked a lot better. And I'm just hoping that by the end of this card, and more importantly, by the end of Mania, that there's no way they can balance all those plates without dropping at least one. But I hope that if they drop one of them, it's one of the least important things, and that they only drop one. I don't want it to be one of those mess of a WrestleMania, Road to WrestleMania, all of this stuff. I don't want it to be like, okay, from January 1st onward, everything was complete fucking chaos and shit. It just happens to work that way. But didn't you enjoy 2 nights worth of the wrestling without the crazy booking? That's what I'm nervous about, that we don't have the ability for hindsight yet. So right now, Elimination Chamber has the potential to have some good matches on it, but it could also set up stuff that I think I'm going to be hating in the future. And it could also be setting up exactly what I need for my WrestleMania. They want you to enjoy this show, and they want you to have the perception coming out of this show that you want to watch Raw and SmackDown, and that you're more excited for Mania. Whether they're going to pull that off, I don't know.
I think even though for a lot of it's going to be paint by numbers, and really we gave you a lot of talk for a show that's going to be very much, we could have gotten through this in 20 minutes.
If we really wanted to, and we didn't want to care about breaking down the future, we very easily could have just said, all right, Rhea wins, Becky wins, Drew wins, and Judgment Day wins. And then there's a promo that seems like it's kind of pointless,
Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we're all like on the same page with all our predictions. Because it's just that.
I wouldn't say it's the first time.
It feels that much of a foregone conclusion. And I think it'll be a good show, but I'm more so concerned about how they keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to. And the match themselves that are booked for this one, that like, they all have potential in their own ways. It's just a case of it still feels a bit weird to just have 4 matches. I'm not saying you take the AEW route of putting like 12 matches on each show, but like this is a big stadium show in Australia, and they've got 4 matches booked.
Mm-hmm. And it's weird because those matches aren't as long as the Royal Rumbles, so it's like, are we going to get a lot of fucking downtime on this?
I fear so.
Is this going to be one of those fucking pay-per-views where it's like 10 minutes before the opening match, and like, not 10 minutes before the opening match, but like that we start off and it's a fucking video package, and it's like, okay, the first match is going to begin at 5:07 or something. By the time they're in the ring, it's quarter after. We have a 15-minute match or something. Then we go to 12 minutes worth of commercials and backstage things, and then another 10 minutes for entrances, and then another whatever. And it ends up being like, okay, crap, we've had a 5-hour pay-per-view if you count the kickoff, and 3 hours of that has been complete filler. I really hope not, because I'm going to be fucking tired as all hell. I'm going to be falling asleep if that's the case. And I don't think that's fair to the Australian crowd either, because they should be getting... Look, you can't get Gunther in an IC title match. He can't travel. That sucks. CM Punk is injured. That sucks. But, like, you mean to tell me that you couldn't have figured out 2 other matches to add onto this card? There's a lot of people not scheduled to appear here. Bronson Reed, Shinsuke Nakamura, Ricochet, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa. We don't have, not that they're the most important, but like the Creed brothers, DIY. We don't have Kofi and Woods, Miz, R-Truth. Nothing with Sami Zayn here. Nothing with AJ Styles. Nothing with Karrion Kross. Nothing with the LWO story, which I'm still thinking it's going to be Ray against Santos, or LWO versus Legado at Mania. We don't have anything with Sheamus, as it has been gone for a while. They don't have anything going on with him. The hell, you know?
Yeah.
Why not? Why isn't Braun Breaker in a match here to showcase him? Why isn't something going on with more of like the women's division? Or, you know, I just think that there's ways that they could have done this that probably would have had a much better card. But we're going to see if that ends up being those situations that after we get done this, and we were talking about the post show, that we might end up being like, oh, okay, well, we know what their goal was here. Even if we disagree with it, that might be like, okay, all they cared about was that fucking Grayson Waller effect segment. And the whole pay-per-view was just, fuck you, we want that segment. Or maybe they have something else in mind. Maybe there are some surprises. Or it could just be one of those events that by the time we get to the post show, we go, God damn, that was a fucking B-level pay-per-view. Poor Australian crowd. They spent a lot of money, they spent a lot of time, and they got the shit end of the stick.
It is possible.
I don't remember for sure about Clash at the Castle if there was more than just 2 matches that really mattered. Was there?
I thought that was a good show. Memory.
Because they had the Drew thing, which of course, you know, problematic in different ways, especially when you end the show with him just being like, I lost, but let me sing. And then they had the IC title match that was really good. Other than that, I don't remember what else was on the card. So maybe that's their approach, is when they do these big shows, it's like, well, we rent out a big stadium and you're starved for the attention and we can give you crap and you're going to like it. For that matter, I don't think that this is going to be crap. I think that these matches are going to be good on this show. Like the men's Elimination Chamber match in particular, I think is going to be really good, just like action-wise. We know that Dunne and Bate are going to have a chance for a really good match against Priest and Balor. Maybe Nia Jax and Ripley is good. The women that are involved in the women's Elimination Chamber match, they're talented. So like the in-ring action should be good for this event. So that's what I'm excited for. But I'm just cautiously nervous that they're going to fuck up the road to WrestleMania and Mania itself. So at the end of this whole situation, of course, we will be breaking things down on the post show. Make sure you have your email alerts set up for all that stuff. But as far as the predictions and the preview side of it, is there anything else you guys want to toss out?
Yeah, that's about it. Now it's just a matter of watching the show and seeing how it goes.
Especially because we know how SmackDown plays out.
Well, that's something I think that they should edit. I hope that they filmed some backstage segments with The Rock while they had him last week to plug into this week. But again, we'll see.
Any last thoughts, Callum?
That'd be good enough.
Okie dokie, everybody. So you know what that means. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what you think about our reactions and anything else that you want to chime in about. Make sure that you are clicking around on all the different things you can find at Smark Out Moment. Go to smarkoutmoment.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Stay tuned for maybe another Darkcast coming up. I don't know. Still haven't figured that out yet. Check out fanboysanonymous.com for everything that's happening over on the Blue brand. You can find Blueprint stuff. You can find things from movie reviews, fan tracks, anything on that kind of spectrum of the geek culture side of things, you'll find over on there. And of course, go to the link tree where you can find those links for Smark Out Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and anything else under A Mango Tree. Go to amangotree.com or anthonymango.com. All those links, they're all tied into me in some fashion. So follow me at Tony Mango. Follow Robin Callum.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my work on Fightful.com and DudeFelice.com, forever coming soon.
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings every single Saturday on smarkoutmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And following that, you can also check out the Fantasy League, also at smarkoutmoment.com, and also at WWEFantasyLeague.com to see how our teams are doing, because this is the final show where our predictions will count towards changes to our teams, who will be added to our teams, and all of that stuff. So it's the final push before WrestleMania. So keep tuned on to that to see how our points are stacking up in the final month of this Fantasy League.
All right, everybody. You know the score. Keep your email alerts set up. Join us on Saturday morning / afternoon, whatever that is, for the post show for this. But before that is either going to be the Darkcast or the hot tags of the week. So stay tuned for that too. Subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.